Bound for Glory 2020 took place last night in Nashville, Tennessee. We saw 3 new champions crowned during last night's big event. Obviously, it was a very interesting event. We did a watch along live on the channel, so if you want to see my instant reactions to everything that happened at last night's show, be sure to check that out on the channel. But today we're going to talk about specifically the championships that changed hands last night at Bound for Glory. Of course, we had the tag titles change, we had the World Championship change, and we also had the Knockouts Championship change too. So let's get straight into it because there's a lot to break down and talk about. Of course, spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the results of Bound for Glory, we'll give you some time to stop right now. Right, so we're going to talk specifically about all the titles that changed hands last night at Bound for Glory. Specifically, first we're going to talk about the Tag Team Championships. Of course, we have new Impact Tag Team Champions in the North. Now, this was really interesting because I really didn't see this title change coming at all. I really didn't. Now, before the match even started, you had the Motor City Machine Guns making their entrance. Alex Shelley is on the entrance ramp, and the North attack the Motor City Machine Guns. We have a Tiger Driver pile driver onto Alex Shelley, onto the entrance ramp by Josh Alexander. Now, this meant that Alex Shelley couldn't get involved for the entirety of the match. He did not appear, he did not wrestle. His only appearance was during the entrance. Now, this meant that Chris Sabin had to wrestle solo and go up against it solo for the entirety of the match. Now, if you go back and watch the watch-along, I thought personally this was setting up Chris Sabin to win sort of against all odds. I thought this was going to be, he's setting up against all odds, Chris Sabin is going to win this one. And even though prior to this angle and prior to the pay-per-view, if you go and check the predictions video on the channel, previously I actually had the Good Brothers winning this one. I didn't have, obviously, the North winning. I thought the Good Brothers would win. Now, the reason I thought the Good Brothers would win this one is because, look, the Good Brothers, they've got the big contracts. They're on big contracts, arguably some of the biggest in Impact Wrestling right now. They've had TV specials. They've had Talking Shop, Mania specials on Fight TV. They've also had the Talking Shop before Bound for Glory special on, I believe that was on Access TV too. You've got their deals in their contract, or the clauses in their contract that allow them to have dates with New Japan if they wish. I feel for Impact it would be a big deal to see the Impact Tag Team Champions go over to New Japan, even if it's just on the American side, and have those titles around their waist. So I felt like this would be inevitable, quite frankly. I felt like it would be inevitable that the Good Brothers would become the Tag Team Champions. Now, I mentioned it's an inevitability. I think eventually the Good Brothers are going to become the Tag Team Champions. They're 2 of the biggest stars in the company. They're 2 of the biggest names, 2 of the biggest merch sellers. It's not a matter of if but when it comes to the Good Brothers becoming the Tag Team Champions. I thought that would happen here, considering it's the biggest show of the year. It's Bound for Glory. But that didn't happen. The North got the victory here. Now, obviously, the finish here was that Carl Anderson went to go for a roll-up on Josh Alexander. He gets shoved into the ropes, and Ethan Page hits Carl Anderson in the head with the Impact World Tag Team title. Josh Alexander covers, gets the 1, 2, 3, and now the North are 2-time Impact Tag Team Champions. Obviously, previously, they were the longest reigning Impact Tag Team Champions in history. I think they held the titles for, 400 days or something like that. So that factored in as to why I really didn't see this coming. I really didn't see it coming at all because, as I mentioned, you're just coming off this long, super long tag team title reign, and given that they've just come off this huge and long title reign, you have to question it as to, is there really the desire there to see them become tag team champions again? And I'm not sure that there was. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of the North. I think they're the best tag team in Impact Wrestling right now. They're one of the best tag teams in the world. But from a booking point of view, when you've just held the championships for over a year, and that title reign ended, July? We're in October now. That was only a couple of months ago. Do you put the title straight back on them? I don't know if you do. I don't know if you do, because you have to question if there's the desire to see them as the champions once again. I think myself personally, I would have liked to have seen the dust settle on that title reign a little bit more, and maybe hold off getting the North back to become tag team champions so soon. I think maybe people, myself included, would have liked to have seen the Motor City Machine Guns maybe hold the titles a little bit longer too. But again, you do have to factor in contracts and things of that nature. We'll touch on that in a second. So given that the North attacked the Motor City Machine Guns before the match started, you could question that maybe we're going to see the North versus the Motor City Machine Guns feud continue, which again surprises me because this has been the feud since Slammiversary. Of course, the North defeated Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan at Slammiversary to retain the tag titles, but straight away after that, on the following episode of Impact on Access TV, they lost the titles to the Machine Guns, and they've pretty much been feuding with them continuously since then. So that's July, August, September, October. That feud has been 4 months going now, and again, given that the North attacked the Machine Guns before the match started, you would think if Alex Shelley sticks around, then we're going to have this feud continue. So again, 4 months in, do we want to see the feud continue? It feels a little bit like we're back to square one when it comes to this feud. So again, all of that sort of tied in to why I was very surprised about the outcome of this. Now, I mentioned about Alex Shelley there, because this could obviously be a way to write off Alex Shelley off of television too. Now, you have to remember, when it comes to the Motor City Machine Guns, they returned at Slammiversary. It was actually a return that I predicted because I felt like the parts were there. That return had been planned since about April. When they were doing the TNA There's No Place Like Home event that was scheduled for WrestleMania weekend, a Motor City Machine Guns reunion was planned for then. So that return was always in the books. However, Chris Sabin, out of the Motor City Machine Guns, is the only one that's currently working with an Impact Wrestling contract. Chris Sabin is a backstage producer, but he also has a contract as well to be a talent. Alex Shelley, as far as I'm aware, if you look at the reports online, Alex Shelley doesn't have a contract with Impact Wrestling right now. He's been working on a handshake deal, per appearance deal with the company, and obviously that can expire at any time. So maybe this attack by the North before the match started, maybe this is a way to write Alex Shelley off of TV. Maybe this is a way to say Alex Shelley's gone, yep, I'm done now, and they've parted ways. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll have to wait and see. If that is true, I'd be kind of bummed out to think that Alex Shelley's run ended with not even having the match. I think that would be a bit of a sucky way to end, to be honest. But maybe it is his run done with Impact. Who knows? But going back to the North, I really didn't see the North winning this one. It did shock me. It did shock me. I think another thing we can look into this though, with the North becoming the tag team champions once again, is you have to factor in Ethan Page's contract here. And I spoke about this during the preview. I spoke about this during the watch along, that if the North won here, this says a lot about the contract status of Ethan Page with Impact Wrestling. We know that Ethan Page's contract is set to expire at the end of the year. Come January 1st, 2021, he is no longer under contract with Impact Wrestling. Now, he did an interview with Sports Illustrated, and he spoke about Impact allowing him to talk to other companies and other promotions, which basically means WWE and AEW. I don't know if those talks have happened, but he seemingly is saying that they have. But he also said during that interview that he wants to listen to what Impact Wrestling has to offer him, and that he values Impact Wrestling's offer more than anyone else. Impact Wrestling is his priority. So I think if they give him a good offer, he will stay. And he's basically, if you read between the lines there, that's exactly what he has said. If Impact gives me an offer that I think is right, I will stay. They are my priority. That's the place I want to be. So this result coming out of Bound for Glory last night says to me that they have had talks, that the talks have been positive, and that Ethan Page is looking more and more likely at this point, I think, to stay with Impact Wrestling. Because from an Impact Wrestling company point of view, do you really give the tag team title to someone that is going to be leaving in a couple of months? I don't think you do. So I think that result does say a lot. So the North are the new Impact Tag Team Champions, like I said. A surprising result, a result I didn't see coming, but congratulations to the two-time now Impact Tag Team Champions. Now, speaking of results that I didn't see coming, we also have a new Knockouts champion in Impact Wrestling, and it isn't Kylie Ray, it isn't Deonna Purrazzo, it is Su Yung. Now, last night, of course, at Bound for Glory, it had been promoted for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was meant to be Deonna Purrazzo versus Kylie Ray. Now, before, Deonna Purrazzo made her entrance and Kylie Ray's music hit, and you thought that Kylie Ray was going to make her entrance for her scheduled match at Bound for Glory, but her music plays and she doesn't show up. No Kylie Ray. So Deonna Purrazzo says, I saw this coming, I told you this was going to happen. She said that I promised you a title defense at Bound for Glory, so I'll defend it against anyone. There's an open challenge. Then out comes Su Yung, the returning Su Yung, not Susie, but Su Yung. Now, of course, only a couple of weeks ago, it was Deonna Purrazzo versus Susie, Su Young's alter ego, at Victory Road for the Knockouts Championship. Deonna Purrazzo defeated Susie and broke her arm during the match. Now, I thought, and if you watch the predictions video I did here on the channel, I thought that Su Yung would be involved in this match. I thought Su Yung would return. at Bound for Glory. We haven't seen her for a long time. She's been doing the Susie gimmick for a very long time. But I thought Su Yung would return because that's the story here. I actually predicted that Su Yung would return and she would cost Kylie Rae the Knockouts Championship, but that isn't the case here. So I did think Su Yung would return, so that wasn't a huge surprise. But what was a surprise is that we got a Deonna Purrazzo versus Su Yung match instead of the Deonna Purrazzo versus Kylie Rae match. So she replaces Kylie Rae and she wins the Knockouts Championship. She defeats Deonna Purrazzo. We have a new Knockouts champion and that's Su Yung. Now, a lot of people, rightfully so, were very, very confused as to why Kylie Rae didn't appear at Bound for Glory. Now, according to Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Wrestling Online, he said, quote, that she didn't appear, her being Kylie Rae, pronouns pal, at Bound for Glory due to an injury that isn't considered serious. Now, no other details are known about the injury, but Impact, they were promoting this match like usual right until the last minute, right up until the match took place between Su Yung and Deonna Purrazzo. Now, earlier this month, you have to backtrack a bit when it comes to this potential injury when it comes to Kylie Rae. But earlier this month, Kylie Rae was, she wrestled at Freelance Wrestling's I Don't Think We're in Chicago Anymore against Josh Alexander on October 10. Now, she was scheduled to appear the next day at a Black Label Pro Threat Level noon event, but she was out due to, quote, unforeseen circumstances, essentially implying that she was injured during the October 10 event. Now, PW Insider has expanded on this and said that Kylie Rae reportedly was not even backstage at last night's pay-per-view event, Bound for Glory. Now, this has caused a lot of controversy online, and to be honest, rightfully so. I think rightfully so. Now, what I will say is injuries suck. Injuries, they are the scourge of pro wrestling, they're the scourge of life, but they happen. Injuries happen, and it really sucks for Kylie Rae. Now, thankfully, if the reports about what Brian Alvarez are saying true, thankfully the reports are this isn't serious. That's the positive. That's the positive there, because if it isn't a serious injury, that's a thumbs up. Now, I was really disappointed, and I think a lot of people were, because I felt that Deonna Purrazzo versus Kylie Rae, that was the sleeper match of the night. I think that could really have stolen the show, and I think a lot of people thought it was going to steal the show. What I do have a problem with, and I think a lot of people have a problem with this, is that Impact, they obviously knew that Kylie Rae couldn't compete at Bound for Glory. They obviously knew that. She wasn't even backstage at the show, if PW Insider is to be believed. So they knew way ahead of time Kylie Rae can't compete. Yet, even knowing that, having the knowledge that Kylie Rae couldn't compete at Bound for Glory, they promoted it anyway. And when I say promoted it, they promoted it to the final second. I mean, the very final second. In terms of playing her music and showing all the promo packages and buy Bound for Glory on Fight TV, Kylie Rae, Deonna Purrazzo, what a match that's going to be. They did that knowing that the match was never going to take place. That's not on. I don't like that. I know that the old cliche when it comes to professional wrestling is card subject to change, right? That's one thing. Card subject to change is one thing. But to advertise the match right to the final, not even the last minute, the final seconds, get people hyped, get people to buy the event, promoting that fans will see this match that has been built since July. You have to remember, Kylie Rae won the opportunity to become the Knockouts champion in July at Slammiversary. They've been promoting this match since July, and for the last however many days, they've known full well that they couldn't and wouldn't deliver it. Yet they promoted it anyway. That's not on. That's not good business. That is a bait and switch, and Impact Wrestling are better than that. And they should be better than that. They should hold themselves to higher standards than that. It's not right. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought the match between Deonna Purrazzo and Su Yung, I actually thought was really, really good. I thought it was one of the matches of the night, and I thought, not only considering the circumstances, I thought it was just a great match, and I thought they did really, really well. But I have a bad taste in my mouth. I have a bad taste in my mouth from the way that Impact handled this. It's plainly obvious. They knew ahead of time they couldn't do the match. They lied to fans. That's what it is. They lied to fans saying that they were going to do the match and the match was going to happen, and they didn't do the match. It's not good. It's lying. It's not good at all. And don't get me wrong, I don't blame Deonna Purrazzo. I don't blame Su Yung. I don't blame Kylie Rae. These things happen. I don't blame any of the performers. it's not their fault. They had a great match. The people who I do blame are the people in charge of Impact, whether that is Don Callis or Scott D'Amore or whoever made that decision of we're going to continue to promote it like nothing has happened. That's not on. That's not on. This wasn't the way to handle it. It just wasn't the way to handle it. For me, and it's easy to say, oh, it's not the right way to handle it. Okay, well, how would you handle it? Right, fine. If that was me, you'd make the announcement ahead of time, whether it's on social media, whether it's on any of your pre-shows or anything like that. Make the announcement ahead of time and say that the match isn't happening, Kylie Rae is injured, shoot an angle that Deonna Purrazzo attacks her backstage, whatever, and say that Deonna Purrazzo instead, because the match isn't happening, is going to have an open challenge. This gets people excited. People on social media, okay, that's a bummer about Kylie Rae, but I'm still going to order the event. I'm still going to watch the event because I wonder who answers this open challenge. I wonder who it's going to be. People would probably assume it's going to be Su Yung, but who cares? There's still an air of mystery. There still is an air of excitement there. That would have been fine. You can't just not promote the match, or promote the match and not deliver. That's not good. So, as I mentioned, I have a bad taste left in my mouth on that one. It doesn't sit well with me. Congratulations, obviously, to Su Yung, but people are obviously talking about the Kylie Rae issue when it comes to that. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there'll be updates about that come out in the coming days too. Finally, the big title change, probably the biggest title change of the night, is we have a new Impact World Champion. Rich Swann is the new Impact World Champion. Last night, Rich Swann won the Impact World Championship against Eric Young at Bound for Glory in the main event. After a hard-hitting match, Swann hit a Phoenix Splash to put Young away via pinfall. After the match, the entirety, pretty much, especially the babyfaces of the Impact Wrestling roster, came out to the ring to congratulate Rich Swann, held him on his shoulders, and this is, of course, Rich Swann's first title reign as Impact World Champion. Now, the stars coming to the ring, the wrestlers coming to the ring and holding him on their shoulders is pretty much a parallel. Of course, it was pretty much a parallel to his retirement speech when the entirety of the Impact Wrestling roster surrounded the ring, banged on the ring apron when Rich Swann said he was going to have to retire. So I thought that was a nice little story point, a nice little parallel there. The match itself between Rich Swann and Eric Young I felt was fine. I felt for a while in there it lacked quite a bit of logic because Eric Young went after the neck of Rich Swann instead of the ankle, which was very confusing to me considering the entirety of this storyline is about the ankle of Rich Swann and about the adversity that he's had to overcome. I mean, the guy was going to retire like 8 weeks ago because of the ankle injury, and you go after his neck in the match? Very strange. But eventually they did go after the ankle, so I was glad to see that. In terms of the title change, I was surprised that EY dropped the title so soon. We've now seen 2 back-to-back short title reigns in Eddie Edwards and Eric Young. I feel that Eric Young I felt that going into Eric Young should have retained. And I felt like he should have held the title on a little longer just because of the great job he's been doing. He is the top heel in the company. He's been doing the best work in the company. Nobody can touch Eric Young, essentially. So I felt that Eric Young should have retained and held the title a little longer because of that. But I think you do have to look at the story here that Impact Wrestling are trying to tell. And you look at the story from July or even back in January when Rich Swann first suffered his injury. You look at the entirety of that and it kind of felt inevitable that Rich Swann was going to win here. This was an underdog story. This was coming back from a horrific injury. It was a fairy tale ending. That's what Impact Wrestling was trying to tell with this entirety of this storyline, with this story and with this match. So I think that Rich Swann almost had to win this match to tie up this story. Look, he had 2 surgeries. He's got pins and plates in his ankle. He has to come back at Slammiversary. He gets destroyed by Eric Young at Slammiversary. He retires. He gets destroyed again. And he comes back and now he's the world champion. The story there makes sense. The story makes sense from that point of view. And Impact wanted to close the biggest show of the year. You have to remember the circumstances and the setting as well. It's the biggest show of the year. It's their WrestleMania. We've heard a lot of the times when it comes to Vince McMahon and WrestleMania, he likes to end it on a high note, on a happy note, and I think Impact Wrestling wanted to do the same thing with Bound for Glory here. I think they wanted to end it on a big note, and that big note was Rich Swann becoming the world champion. So it was a happy and feel-good moment, so I understand it from that perspective. Now, obviously a lot of people are discussing, is Rich Swann world champion material? And I don't have the answer to that. I really don't have the answer to that. I think the proof will be in the pudding when it comes to Rich Swann and this title reign. I think if you'd have asked that question to the majority of people in July, if you'd have said, is Rich Swann good enough to be a world champion? Is he world champion material? I think a lot of people, myself included, would have probably said no back in July. But I think over the course of this feud with Eric Young, I think Rich Swann has upped his game. I think his promo work has significantly improved. Go watch that retirement speech. I think his character work has improved significantly too. And I think he deserves a shot at being the world champion. I really do. Look, Impact Wrestling, I think you look at their roster, I think they need top baby faces. I think if you look at the entirety of the Impact Wrestling roster right now, that is something that, to me, is missing there. Who is that tip top babyface that can be the world champion, the top babyface above the rest? I don't know who that is in Impact Wrestling right now. I think that is a legitimate question. Who is the top babyface? So is Rich Swann going to be that guy? Who knows? Who knows? But I think he's earned his shot, and I think he's earned his shot at proving that he's ready to step up to that role, and I think he deserves it. And you look at his age, I'm stunned that he's only 29 years old, rather. He feels like he's been around for an entirety of a lifetime, but he's only 29 years old, so he's still got a huge future ahead of him, regardless of the injuries that he's suffered. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go with Rich Swann and this feud of Eric Young. Is the feud over? I don't think personally it is over. I think there is more story to tell there. What that story is, we don't know yet. But I'm sure we'll find out this coming week on Impact Wrestling. So 3 big title changes there. What are your thoughts of the titles that changed hands last night at Bound for Glory? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and chatting about Impact Wrestling here on the channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really just helps out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.